My name is Rishikesh Nare. We welcome you to our special series, The Economic Times Cutting Chai Stories. It's an initiative by ETH. The key to cutting chai conversation is to have good discussion around the areas of early life, education to grooming, training, business sense, skill augmentation to work-life balance. And before we begin, let me set the context right. Cutting Chai is a series of candid conversations and where we take you through the inspirational journeys of influential people. You all have seen these personalities in the corporate world, but we're taking them away from the boardroom drama to have some fun chat around their personal life. So we are uncovering so many secrets I can't tell you. And I'm extremely happy to welcome Mr. Swamy Kocherlakota, EVP and CIO S&P Global, which is the leading financial company. So, Mr. Swamy, thank you so much. Thanks for your time. We're glad to have you here. And I'm so excited because when I was doing a bit of research about you and when we discussed a few things before the interview, I got to know so many things. So I'm extremely excited about this conversation. Let's start with your childhood. So how was your childhood like? Tell us the city that you belong to, and the schooling days, the fun things that you had with your friends.
Right. So Rishikesh, first of all, thank you for having me here. When it said chai and informal conversation, I said, let's do it because most meetings that I go to, it's all about technology and vision and financial services. So I'm really glad to have that side of the conversations. But before, let me say a little bit about where I come from. I was originally born and brought up in a hometown called Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh, and a lot of things, one thing led to another, and now I am EVP and the CIO of S&P Global. The purpose of S&P Global is to provide and accelerate the progress in the world, and we do that by providing a lot of essential intelligence. So I'm thrilled to be part of this great company, and there's been a lot of talk about data. We've been a data company for quite a while. We take a lot of pride in converting the data and providing that into essential intelligence. So going back to the childhood, I was brought up in Visakhapatnam. I went to the same school from the 1st grade to the 10th grade, and I was a third boy, and I have a younger sister in a family of 4. And I was part of a big family. A lot of the things that I learned that helped me in my corporate life is because of the big family background that I came from.
I mean, I can get that in typical. I was just visualizing, entire joint family concept. What is there in India? My in-laws, and they're into a joint family. And sorry to say, but it's a madness. I've got 25 people like around me always with like, and the age range that you have, like from like 10-year kid to you, or you have 90-year dadima at your place. So we have fun things around. So tell us, how was the overall bonding? Your cousins, were they rude to you? Were they used to pull legs? Because that happens to the younger child, and that's what they do typically. So any instance that you remember?
Well, everything that I know about how to manage the corporate dynamics and politics came from my early education from my cousins and the big family. We are a tight-knit family. I used to be very fascinated about movies and dance and mimicry. Coming from Andhra Pradesh, we're all big Tollywood movie fans. So every time we get into the family meetings or family events, I'm always at the center stage, entertaining all my cousins. So I'm always like the preferred go-to entertainer. So I got away, and really, nobody pulled my legs or anything. But I'm usually at the center.
I mean, yeah, I understand now. You being the center of the entertainment, no one would want to trouble you as long as you're entertaining them. So, but then what happened to that part of your childhood? You wanted to become an actor, or you ever had this?
Right. Actually, to be honest with you, I used to cut a deal with my dad that if I do well in education, in summer, I would go to Chennai where my uncle is. And every summer, I used to go to Chennai, and I take the public transportation, go to T Nagar, and go from movie director to movie director and movie hero to movie hero's houses, and to see if I can get a glimpse. And I've actually met a lot of people. And to your question, I finally ended up acting in a couple of Telugu movies, and I realized that I'm not cut for it. That's when I focus more on education.
But I'm glad that you give a try to it, because right now you put a full stop to it because you knew you tried doing that, and then we understand. Okay, the similar way. When I was a child, I thought I could become a cricketer, but in India, just imagine the competition from every state, every part of the country. I tried after club level. I understood that this is not a cup of my tea, and this I left it there. So then, what happened? So because being on a artistic side, when you prefer art, and then you go to a different side altogether, technology. So does art play any role into technology? I mean, just exploring my thoughts.
Absolutely. First of all, I'll also give a lot of credit to my dad, who allowed me to be what I want, as opposed to the typical parents that they do, thou shalt become this one. So as a result of that, I've been able to chart my own trajectory. So that was very, very important. And I have two children, Rishikesh, and I took the same philosophy. You decide what you want to be. I'm here to support you. And that, I think, is very, very important for all the parents out there. And that's the advantage of that, is that you discover, and when you see a path for yourself, you discover something, you see the challenges, and then you become much more resilient. To your point, because of the fact that I tried, and I know the pitfalls, because everything looks shiny when you look at it from outside, I was able to know, and that kind of gave me a foundation that how you see is different from when you're in there. And that's put a good precedence for my career. I would apply the same thing, is that everything looks green and nice from the far, and you got to prepare yourself before going in there, and then you have to build a lot of mentors and role models so that you can learn from them. So going back to your second portion of the question around the art, look, if you're an artist, you have a lot more empathy, you have a lot more vulnerability, because you're always learning and practicing. I think those aspects of it worked very well for me when I switched to technology.
I mean, you just mentioned about the role models part of it. So of course, our parents, and we treat them as God. So let's keep them aside, because I just want to know any inspirational personalities that you ever met. It could be anybody. It could be a real life hero. It could be anyone. But any inspirational personalities that you follow rigorously.
See, when I was young, I used to have a mathematics teacher. I used to be very good in math, but very poor in English and other subjects. So when you're struggling with your ambition to become an artist, you focus something there, but you're good at mathematics, but then not so good at in other subjects. My mathematics teacher used to encourage me and always used to recognize me. So he has been a very, very pivotal that, look, you are good. Because in India, when growing up, everybody will tell you what you're not. But my teacher early on was recognizing and encouraging me, and I think I owe a lot of that foundational, confidence to my maths teacher very early on.
I mean, that's great. I mean, mathematics, when you just said that you were expert in mathematics, I was sweating, because I know how difficult mathematics is. It's just that either you get it or you don't get it at all. And
Right.
That is where definitely the approach plays a different role altogether. And I've seen this particular quality in the artist. Like my mom is an artist, and I know how do they process things. They have a certain way of doing things. They will get into the skin of that task or that activity, and then they flesh out results, and that's what it works for them. And
Right.
similarly, I would want to just take out one more piece of information. You mentioned that you have two children. I mean, I don't think so. By looking at you, how old are they?
I have a 22-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old daughter. I have two daughters.
No, I mean, I'm saying you're lying at this point of time. I don't agree to this. I mean, how do you keep yourself in such a way? And honestly, I have immense respect for people who manage themselves. They look young, because look at me, I look older. I'm not 40, I'm 35, but because of things that I have, I look older. But I'm jealous of all those people, those who look young. So please tell us your secret. What do you do for that?
Probably a lot of credit goes to the genes that I inherited, Rishikesh. But I must say that I'm a late bloomer. Over the last couple of years, I picked up running. So, somebody in that I know inspired me, and then I started running, and I love it. I have completed one full marathon and two half marathons in the last 2 years. And then I also did the Hyderabad half marathon. I was so happy to run in my home country.
Yeah, you must try the Ladakh marathon that these guys, they do a high altitude marathon. I don't get it how people, I don't know how do they cope up with that entire thing. It's a low pressure zone, but still they go and do it. So as a runner, what it tells you, when you run, because the maximum that I ran is 12 kilometers, but I know many people that they say that after 22 kilometers the real journey starts. Like your last 15 kilometers, they kill you. So just tell us about that part of it. How do you cope up with that? Any rigorous diet that you take, any practice that you do beforehand?
Right. See, there's a lot of analogies between sports and professional life. And one of the analogies that I would say, it's an endurance sport. So you got to go through, I think it's like goes back to one of those things where, when you're going through hell, keep going. So I think it's just that endurance, you can do it. And yes, there's a 21-week preparation that you have to go through where you slowly build your stamina. I'm a big fan of discipline. While it's like anybody else, it's hard for me to have self-discipline. Then somebody prescribes to you, and I have a running buddy who keeps me honest. And I sometimes I get up and say I got to run because otherwise I'm going to upset my running buddy. So that helped me a lot is to have a check-in coach, a check-in buddy. Improved my game overall.
All of us should have one running buddy. So I don't know, but someone, if they start doing, if you got inspired by someone and someone who pushed you, maybe you could push a few more people and they start running, because running is the most easiest form of being healthy. And all of us, we ignore it, okay, and ignore it with pride. That is not the right thing. Whoever is watching this episode, please don't listen to these advices. Whatever Swamy is saying, please listen to that, because that is eventually going to help you. So let's come back to your early days. So your schooling life, just tell us about your schooling life. Tell us about your college days. What fun you had, like typical Tollywood style. Any instances that you remember? You bunked your school, you went for a movie, anything of that sort?
Yeah, because I was always into movies, this bunking school, skipping school, as they say here, and then going to the first show of your favorite hero is a favorite pastime, right? So all sorts of lies that you tell your parents, I have an extra lab, or I have a private class, so I did all those things. But yeah, from a particular time in my career, my early childhood, I used to bunk classes and go to these movies.
And who was your favorite hero, and who is rather?
Back then, and still is, the Tollywood star Chiranjeevi is my favorite hero. Right, but now I have many favorites because the talent is so high right now. I'm a big fan of many lead actors.
Yeah, and because of the introduction of the OTT platforms, now so many platforms available where people can show off their talent and gain attention. Any right now, say you get a call from India, okay, from one of our production houses, and say that you've got a very small role to play in one of our series. Would you go?
Oh, absolutely. That's like,
oh my God. No, now I know what kind of madness you have for movies. Otherwise, I know people, okay, I've seen them. They say, no, you didn't even take a second.
Right.
But yeah, that's how the artists are. I think they're a little crazy on because for their passion.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll say where can how much I should write a check for, and where do you want me to be in? That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's one fine day that will happen. So you acted years back. One opportunity might come in your way, and we may, you never know. Nowadays you may never know. We can see you in one of the things happening in the local language, because it's the study they say is that the regional content is growing at an exponential growth. Because people, they want to consume the regional content, and that is how most of our production houses in India, they're focusing, they're changing their focus. Even Netflix, they have been beaten by the local players. So yeah, everything, the dynamics are changing. So when we talk about the dynamics and everything, just I'm very curious to know, how was your first interview? Were you dynamic enough to outperform, or were you dynamic enough to let your interviewer know that you're not interested in any art, anything? I'm just a great tech guy, please hire me. So
yeah, my first interview didn't go very well. I didn't get the job, but I was definitely definitely challenging the interviewer back then. See, what happened is my visa got rejected coming to United States. So I had to scramble to find a job in India. And then I was applying for jobs, and I had an opportunity to work in IIT Madras. Even though I didn't go to IIT, there was a lab assistant type thing. And then, so yeah, that didn't really go very well, because I was giving them ideas on, how to set up the lab. So they wanted you to work in the lab. So.
Okay. But later, let's talk about the interview that you cracked. So, and you remember
Right.
any? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. See, what I noticed is when you do these interviews, credibility is an important aspect of it. So I basically said, even my first interview that I cracked, how do I establish credibility with the interviewer, right? Because what you have in the resume can be anything. And then I said very early on, doing things that other people who are also applying for the job cannot do is a differentiator and establishes that credibility. So way back, before certifications became a common thing, I used to take these industry certifications and then used to have high scores on the industry certification. So as a result, you are already establishing your credibility. Now you are taking control of the interview than the interviewer, and that's I think is very key. My first interview was to become a systems administrator for an R&D lab in Seattle, and I already have academic background, but I'm a fresh college grad, and I did my PhD, but it was in theoretical computer science, which is more focused on math. So I loved being, systems administrator, managing large computer networks. So I figured I have to have some certifications. And when I had the certifications, the interview flew really well.
Yeah, I mean, okay, thank you for that advice. So all the viewers, again, I do this on purpose. I get, most insightful information from the inspirational people like you. So it helps everybody to, get few pointers from here, a few pointers from here, and connect everything and become a better professional. Because there is no business school would teach you what experience teaches you. Yeah. And that is where I take the advantage. Really sorry, but yeah, that is how I do it. So I mean, let's again go back to one particular point. So when you were there sitting in those cinema halls, watching those Tollywood movies, whistling, having fun with your friends, have you ever thought that you would one fine day go to US and do a very systematic, wonderful, and perfect tech job?
I will humbly say that I always am thinking about, I'm listening to my heart all the time, and I will let my heart see what it attracts. So right when I'm noticing that, look, I see so much talent in the movie industry, I'm not going to succeed here. Right at the same time, I got into engineering, and I used to love reading these magazines in the train stations. I was talking about going to Chennai, and every time you go to the train station, there's only place where you can get magazines is in the train station and bus stations in India. So I would buy these tech magazines and very loud reading those tech magazines. And even till today, I read magazines all the time because that's where I learn a lot. So I started developing interest in technology. And right when I came into technology, I knew I was going to be a player because I want to always be focusing on differentiation and how can I, run faster, do better, and that led to my continued success here. I would say one thing that you talk about the movies and art and these pivotal moments. When I was in India, there's an important mythological character had a huge impact on my thinking. This is the story of Eklavya. We heard about, there's this one fantastic archer doesn't want to be taught, and then he then goes in and then builds builds a replica of the Guru Drona, and then practices it. So that story to me has such an impact in my life. I have a lot of these Dronacharya unofficial role models, and I'm always adapting to them. So I'm always looking at who is the best in the industry, what got them there, how did they get there, and what aspects of it that I can do now that will help me get there. So I'm always looking up, and then more importantly, studying the people to see how they got there. And I still do that today.
I mean, let me tell you, I'm not lying. When you spoke about that particular part where, how Eklavya was devoted to his guru, I got goosebumps here. Because I know it's very sacred. If you understand that plot, then you note everything. And the way you just described it, and you're still inspired by it, I can understand what value it holds in your life. I'm lost of words now because it's very, very rare this happens, but I could understand because I relate to so many things, so many incidents happen in the history, but very few people get inspired by it. And those who get inspired by it, nobody can stop them. So let's just get out of this. So let's, move to another segment. Before that, I would want to ask you last question from my end. That is, if I give you a time machine, okay, and just consider me a big tech expert, I prepare a time machine, I give it to you, and I tell you that, you can get into this time machine. You can go back in days when you are young and you enter into a cinema hall, you see yourself, okay, a younger version of Swamy sitting there. What message that you would want to whisper in your ears?
I would have said, get an acting coach, get a gym coach, and start early.
That's so true, so spot on, so candid. I mean, got it. I mean, no fancy things, get an acting coach, trainer, and the third that you said.
Yeah, and continue to look for opportunities to
earn.
Friend.
Yeah. See, I'm still in that Eklavya zone that you explained. This never happened, and you did it on camera now. But I'm extremely happy to host you such kind of conversations, and that is where we could struck some emotions, and that's what the human beings are.